very important subject matter because the confusion that people have, and this is coming from a system that's around everybody. So the legal system promotes the vocabulary use of the word human. It was unique that one time I looked up human, and one of the first definitions that even came off the internet was science fiction. So it was that something was not quite what we thought it was. Ballantyne's Law Dictionary 1930 immediately went from human and said sea monster. And not a sea monster, not the Loch Ness monster. It's sea monster, S-E-E monster. So you'd be looking for that. So it's something like something that's been hybridized, mutated. It's not in its pure original situation that it would have been. So we're doing that, and that's what's going on worldwide. We're mutating everything. We're modifying what was pure. We modify anything that we can change so they can patent it. I was, basically at times addressing subjects dealing with patents, and I'm going, you can't patent something that's natural. It's a ridiculous concept. You have to bastardize it or cause it to go down a direction that's not from its purity to actually bring it into that. You don't patent something that's natural. So when we go to this subject matter of humanism, legalism, secularism, and rights, these are all promoted by the UN, United Nations, and this is also promoted by the World Health Organization, of course. So why do they have the serpent symbol on their, on the WHO? Because it represents Satan, who was the first one who caused man to sin and go into deception and lead to things that it became not in their pure original position with God. And so when we go to, I'm reading out of the Funk and Wagnall's dictionary, a little small set that I got a number of years ago, and this is actually in the 1930s, but very, very apparent to what we're dealing with right now. And we're going to read what humanism is in its definition, and hopefully we can understand where this is going and why this is so promoted right now in the lingo, the linguistics of today's society. So here's humanism, a religious movement emphasizing faith in man instead of belief in supernatural. In the U.S., it has arisen from Unitarianism. It is spreading to other liberal religious groups. Humanism, a name applied to the literary movement at the close of the Middle Ages toward the revival of the pagan learning of classical antiquity. The humanists divided into two divergent schools, one of which sought to engraft the classical learning on the tree of Christianity, while the other endeavored to revive the literature of classical antiquity and the pagan spirit of ancient heathen cults. Humanitarians affirm the humanity and wholly deny the divinity of Christ, believe in the perfectibility of man, or profess the religion of humanity. In modern usage, philanthropic people are called by the name. So it would not be out of the ordinary that someone such as Bill Gates, who calls himself a philanthropist, would, is it by chance that he's associated with the concept of humanism that is coming from a legal association of nations that all promote the concept that man can fix his own problems, no more need for God? So now you can see why China is at the top end of this, and they're the biggest promoters of something that is artificial, something that would be put into your body, that would not be real, something that would be foreign to you, something that would hybridize who you are. And therefore, we have to look even further because, many people, have heard me talk about, this separation of what is natural, what is legal, but it never hurts just to re-emphasize it again because of what we just read, so we'd have a clearer understanding. So when we go to natural, even that was on Wikipedia, natural rights and legal rights, it basically put it right through to this understanding that natural, okay, is not dependent on the laws or customs of any culture or government, talking about legal governments, and so are universal, fundamental, and unalienable. They cannot be repealed by human laws. Now you're into this humanism again, because it says it cannot be repealed by them. So it says, though one can forfeit their enjoyment through one's actions, such as by violating someone else's rights. So if you step into the world of legal, you're now violating those rights that are involved, that people promote an opposite to believing in God and the divinity of Jesus Christ. And therefore, you're now walking away from your Creator, and you're now into the recreational entertainment world that this unnatural world of legal promotes. Now, it says basically next that legal rights are those bestowed. We'll use the word granted, that would be a better word. It's granted onto a person by a given legal system. They can be modified, repealed, and restrained by human laws. Of course, I'm going to allow you to use something that's not yours, so I can definitely trick you into a servitude of debt and duty that you'll never be able to get out of while you're a participant. So I've got you into an illusion. I brought you into the legal, and therefore you're bearing this by voluntary action. So when we go to our human rights, the same as natural rights, an article came up in 2011, and it stated, in recognition of the 63rd anniversary of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, President Obama proclaimed this week Human Rights Week. Americans know a thing or two about rights, considering that the country was founded on the self-evident truth that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. But when the president invokes human rights, is he talking about the same concepts from the Declaration of Independence? That is to say, are human rights the same as natural rights? At the time of the founding, people spoke of rights as being natural or God-given. Beginning in the 20th century, they were replaced by the thoroughly modern idea of human rights. Although both natural rights and human rights are universal, there are fundamental differences between the two. First of all, natural unalienable rights do not come from government. Pretty good statement there. Okay, so natural rights are not going to come from an artificial government of men, okay, who make this up. They make their laws up. You're talking about lawyers. They're fraudsters. These are just legal fraudsters. They have to get you to get into their sandbox so that you want to become a member because you think you're going to have something better than what you had before, basically being the unalienable creation of God. So they trick you into an inducement and a servitude to think the grass is greener on the other side. And you find out later that you're really only cutting someone else's grass and it's not your title. So when it goes next, it says, after it says that basically natural, unalienable rights do not come from government, legal governments, and then it says governments only secure these rights, that is, they create the political conditions that allow one to exercise them. That's, I take that with a little bit of grain of salt there because that could be misinterpreted, okay, what they said there. But human rights, on the other hand, are granted by the state and have become a catch-all term for anything we desire and deem important. Well, there's a lot of things they deem important that are wrong, morally wrong in legal society, and so therefore they're not the same. They're absolutely in different situations. As a result, whereas natural rights, such as life, liberty, and property, are rights the government protects from infringement by others, human rights, such as things like housing and leisure, are often things that the government is obligated to provide. It goes further into this, but the key thing on this is when we go down this direction, we have to understand that you're dealing with something that is coming from men who write laws that have nothing to do with God. And they basically get you into 4 million laws and statutes that is contrary to the reality that you were born in your natural position with God. You were born native to the earth, but they have you bearing an alternative name that no longer would be considered to be true. And so they have to enter you into an imagination of fiction in order to enforce legal fiction on you. They have the most interesting definition when they say that a legal fiction cannot be disproved. Court is about proof, not disprove. How do I disprove something that is non-existent? That's a ridiculous statement. That basically the rules of legal fiction is that legal fiction cannot be disproved. Again, I would ask you, how do you disprove something that's non-existent, something that's make-believe? So we were made in the true image of God. We are from what is natural, from the earth. We are not from a world or a concept of commerce. So we're not a legal tender of identity. But the UN will promote that they will issue a legal tender of identity to each individual.